Hello everyone, Discord here, and thank you all so much for 2,500 subscribers. That is such an insane number. I had to do something to celebrate, and when I reached 2,000 subscribers already, I promised some people that I would do a tour of Keypark Zoo so far. Keypark Zoo is my little streaming zoo. I'm live with it every so often, just building whatever I feel like. It is beside the Beeksbergen, just a zoo where I want to pour in all my creativity and things that have inspired me from the real life inspiration videos. And one of the things that inspired me from going to all of those zoos to get inspiration for Planet Zoo was small zoos not being the greatest. And I wondered, what can we do with a small footprint to make it a great zoo? So Keypark Zoo is actually a pretty small footprint, but there's a lot of detail crammed in there with smaller animals and stuff like that. That is basically what we are going for. And yeah, we're just gonna have a look around. The zoo is nowhere near finished. There's not even a single finished area in the zoo, so don't be expecting that. I've always wanted to hold off on making videos about Keypark until it was fully done and I could just tour the zoo, each of the areas, and show it to you all. But yeah, due to high demand of people who don't have the time to watch all of the streams, which I completely understand, we're just gonna have a little brisk walk around, and I'll tell you all about my plans for the zoo. Starting over here with the entrance, yeah, of course there's going to be like gardens and stuff in front. The entrance is a pretty modern building over here that will have a gift shop in it, of course, and we can already see over here is the ticket counters and a little terrarium over there as well. There's going to be posters and all sorts of cool stuff all around. Yeah, I have great plans, but nothing is quite there yet. I've literally just put down the default gift shop stuff to be like, oh yes, how do gift shops actually work? So nothing quite done yet. Another cool thing that is going to be in here is back here is going to be a small office, which basically zoo management is going to be sitting there and yelling at people what to do or something, I don't know. So as we walk outside, we are immediately greeted by our first habitat, which is just a little turtle pond over here, not finished yet, but we can also see behind the turtle pond is some spoiled food. And food for whom? Well, that would be the Wolverine, which sometimes do show their faces here, but I guess not now. You can see them walking around from here, which is a cool little effect that I've accomplished. And it's kind of a zoo design technique that I've tried to apply here, which even though we have such limited space, I still try to create cool views like that to really bring the zoo to life and then make it all feel connected. So on the left over here is a little toilet building. Not finished, of course, but I do have the main style all done up. We even have some taps over here, which I'm really happy with, and some mirrors, and the toilet itself, of course, but yeah, needs some little more detailing. Also over here, this is going to be the disabled toilet. Yeah, that still needs a lot of work as well to make that realistic and actually good for people with disabilities to be able to use those. So the first area we have of this zoo, which it is actually divided into different areas, different regions of the world, and the first one is going to be the European area, and this is Folklore Forest, or it's actually going to be called Slot something, Slot Fabelbos, I think was the name that I came up with, which is Dutch for Castle Fable Forest or Folklore Forest. And the reason it's called that way is because slot is Dutch for lock, and we are in a Keypark Zoo, so all of the names have to have some kind of key pun in there, key or lock or something. Not all of them do yet, but we will get there eventually. Anyway, the first exhibit we encounter over here, past the turtles, is a little silver fox exhibit. This is going to still be netted over. There's a lot to be done here. But yeah, you get the vibe of it at least. We also got the tower over here, which is actually a exhibit for put the name on the thing. In Dutch, it's called a torenvalk. I think it's a common kestrel, but yeah, it's called a torenvalk in Dutch, which is like a tower falcon, basically, and that's why they're in a tower. We can also see another exhibit up there, which is something we'll see in a moment. And we can see a little exhibit over here, which is not for the otter, The otter is currently a stand-in for the European mink. Eben and I actually commissioned a mod for the European mink, so I do hope to be able to add a real one in here soon. That's going to be absolutely amazing. Until then, this is what we got, and it's a pretty nice little small exhibit. What's really cool about it as well, though, is these cages on top. You can already see there's a little squirrel in there. So there's these little squirrel exhibits in the trees, and you almost can't see it, but if you turn around, you can actually see that connects to some kind of tubing that's letting the squirrels in there. Really, really quite neat. As we keep walking, though, we are entering a little cave or a burrow, and this is going to be the badger burrow. I don't know. I don't have a name for the burrow yet, but we'll get to that. Inside of here, you've got some exhibit for mice, and also you can go down these steps over here to look into the burrow of the silver foxes. As you keep going, there's going to be a backstage over here, which is probably going to be pretty detailed. I'm trying to do detailed backstages in the zoo wherever possible, because it's really all about like how much can I actually cram in here, realism-wise. Yeah, here we've got another exhibit, which is going to be for like the dormouse, I was thinking. And then we've got some more burrows over here. We can actually see the otter, or the mink, which is going to be based off the otter, can actually enter this burrow over here and go inside, which is really, really awesome. Same cannot be said for the badgers. This is going to be the badger burrow, but it's not actually usable by the badgers, which when you come outside, you will immediately see the badger enclosure over here, which is just beautifully lush, and yeah, it almost looks like there's no fences here, which is really well done. But if you were to take these stairs up and out of the burrow area, you will immediately see that there is indeed a fence in the badger enclosure. Just from down there, you cannot see it, which is another really cool zoo design technique. And I really like that a lot. While we're up here, we can also check out this enclosure that we saw from down there. It is another fox enclosure, but now for the red fox. And I also got like I think that's a melanistic one, or whatever it's called. Yeah, this is the one that we did the netting tutorial with, if you recall. Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. The custom netting over here, it looks so good. But yeah, that is that. As we move our way down past the badger enclosure we just saw, we get to the actual enclosure of the squirrels, which via those tubings connect to those things up in the trees. But this is where the squirrels can have a little bit more space. There's also this little shack over here. It's going to be some education about fur and hunting animals for their fur, which is typical for a lot of the animals in here. Over here we can see those wolverine walking around the enclosure, and in the back there, that is kind of where that viewing point of the turtles was. So when they're standing on this hill, you can also see them from the entrance, kind of drawing you in to this area, which I think is really lovely. Behind them as well, we can see another aviary that's going to be for some type of owl. And this little building over here is actually a functional backstage, and we are going to be able to detail this up pretty well. Here's going to be backstage for the squirrels, backstage for the wolverine, which they can actually get inside of, and over here is the backstage of that mink exhibit. So yeah, it is all going to be detailed at some point probably, but just not quite yet. Then over here you can take a shortcut to the Africa area. There's also another viewing point of the badgers over here, but yeah, we're not going there. We're just going to take the main walking route, which will bring us over here to what is currently a guinea pig enclosure, but I think I might actually change this to be for the European hamster, although I think that will require some changes in terms of making it more escape proof. But I think that would be a really cool thing to actually make it fit the Europe area instead of guinea pigs, which are technically South American. And European hamsters are also super endangered, I'm pretty sure, so that will be an awesome conservation message as well. But yeah, then you get to the aviary over here for the owl, as well as a little walled garden with a bee hotel. And there's going to be some education about how you can make your garden more sustainable and more welcoming to native species like bees. Then from there we move to the Africa area. So we're leaving the Folklore forest and we are entering Kufuli National Park. Kufuli is Swahili for loch, so this is the Loch National Park. Of course, we are in Keypark. And this area actually has a really strong educational story, which I'm really proud of. It's going to be all about the national park and what that entails what are the type of things that a national park provides, but also what are downsides of national parks in some way. So first thing we encounter over here is a tortoise crossing. In a national park, animals have the right of way. You see this a lot. Even things like dung beetles will have signs warning cars to like be careful for passing dung beetles. You're not allowed to squish them, obviously. And yeah, over here we've got a little tortoise enclosure. Actually need to download the leopard tortoise mod because that is the species that was meant to be in here. You can see there's also these cool little African huts which you can go inside of to see the leopard tortoise indoor area as well as a view into a large aviary, which was the first aviary that I did the custom netting for, where I kind of developed the technique for it. And this aviary is still very much under construction. I basically am going to completely redesign the layout of it. You can see currently the path is going through the middle, but I want to change it so that it goes around the edges of it. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Over here we've got a banded mongoose exhibit, and you can see I'm experimenting still with the sign types. I'm transitioning from these kind of like stickers to making it fully drawn, which fits the style a lot better if you ask me. I'm also going to change this actually to a yellow mongoose. I think it's a much cooler species in my opinion. I love the way that they look, and there's a mod for it now. Back when I built this for the first time, it was not there yet. But yeah, you can see there's some backstage access to their holding over there, which the keepers kind of have to crawl down to get to, but I'm pretty sure Beekseberg has something similar for their meerkats. I also made all of these doors actually functional, so they actually swivel around the hinges, which is really, really cool and totally unnecessary, but I absolutely love it. So as we keep walking here, there's some nice plants. We're moving from kind of a savanna-like area to slightly more lush, but not too much to make it not too jarring. But over here is going to be an anti-poaching outpost, where there's going to be education about anti-poaching units like the black mamba, who are constantly on watch in the national parks to make sure all the animals are safe and protected. And over here we have a cute little red river hog habitat. This was originally a warthog habitat, but when we got the red river hogs in the game, I was immediately in love, and of course I had to add them in here. They're just such an awesome little species. Did kind of change the vibe, because then suddenly it needed to be slightly more tropical for them to make that make sense. But yeah, I'm really happy with them in here, and actually the extra lushness for them adds a lot to the enclosure as well. And it also helps with the next enclosure actually, which is this small little netted over enclosure for the black and white ruffed lemur over here, which, even though of course they don't live in mainland Africa, they do live on Madagascar in slightly more tropical environments. So yeah, that also kind of fits with the tropicalness of that enclosure. What you can see here, what I put a lot of effort into, is all of this waterfall stuff. Actually, it looks like some of it got broken a bit if I look at these faux rocks over here. That's worrying. I have a feeling that more faux rock stuff got broken around the zoo, so I don't know if I moved or deleted some kind of group that caused this. This is kind of worrying. I'll have to fix that at some point. But yeah, they can actually use these climbing frames. I'm not sure why they're not doing it. They should be able to at least. Oh, well, there you go. They're using it. And you can also see that they do have a backstage there that they can also get into, but we'll get to that much later. So over here as well, there is a functional backstage, but I haven't decorated it yet. There's actually going to be a pretty large backstage, not for the lemurs, but for some of the cats that are going to be close by here. There's also this big bus over here, which is going to be the next big educational thing about the national park story. Basically, this is going to be all about tourism and how ecotourism contributes to both the economy of places that national parks are part of, and by doing so they incentivize national parks to be created. So yeah, in the back of the bus is going to be all sorts of signs about that, and inside of the bus is a viewing area of the caracal, which is going to be in this exhibit over here. And of course, kids are going to love sitting in the bus and pretending to be driving it around and stuff. So it's just a really awesome little feature over there that I always love to see in zoos. And I'm really happy with it over here. Then we've got a small food court Also backstage of the caracal is going to be inside of that cave type thing. We also see a slightly extended version of that backstage door that we saw earlier, which is going to lead the keepers into the backstage over there. But yeah, you've got lovely views of the Red River Hawk from over here, and you can see how that waterfall cascades all the way down into this habitat, making it all one connected whole, which is really, really quite awesome, if you ask me. Then you get into the aviary over here. I've got a lot of ideas for it still, of how I want to change it and make it all work. But the main idea is that we are going to put the path around the edge over here, so that it's going to be possible to make the aviary kind of bird flu proof, for a little bit of extra realism there. It is increasingly becoming an issue in the Netherlands especially, so I want to kind of take that into account at least a little bit for this project, because this is a much more modern zoo, so it would be weird if they didn't take that into account. But yeah, it's going to be a very big aviary. There is also penguin inside of here, kind of similar to the aviary at Plankendael, where they have the Humboldt penguin together with a bunch of South American birds. Over here it's going to be the African penguin with a bunch of African birds. And I was considering also actually extending the Red River Hawk habitat into this aviary as well, so that you have the Red River Hawks together with the birds. And that is still something I'm considering, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. We'll see. So yeah, over here, just a little viewing point outpost is going to be here. Maybe similar to the one at Wildlands, where you can get onto a boat. Why is there still blue penguins in here? That's still from the Oceania pack video. Whoops. Or live stream. Oh well, whatever. You're leaving the aviary through this little hut over here. Some nice shields. And over here, this is one of my favorite areas of the zoo. This is also one of the most finished areas of the zoo right now. We've got this cool little water feature, an awesome bridge which you can actually look through. You can look down into the kind of stream from the bridge, but most importantly over here we have a striped hyena habitat, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm so happy with how this ended up looking, and it's not even done yet, and it's already one of my favorite things in the zoo. It needs some changes, because the original layout was going to have the backstage back here, kind of hidden behind this outcropping, but the accessibility of that backstage was kind of stupid, so I'm going to move the backstage to be somewhere on this side, so that keepers can access it through a door inside of this hut. But yeah, that's something that will have to be made at some later point. Until then, let's move on to the next exhibit over here, which is for the crested porcupine and the meerkat. It was originally just for the meerkat, but when we got the porcupines, yeah, it was too perfect not to add them, and there was plenty of space in the habitat, so why not, you know? It's an absolutely awesome exhibit. I'm super happy with all of the details in this one, and well, it gets even better, I should say, because this is the first backstage in the zoo that is actually finished, and it should give you some idea of what I want to do with the remaining backstages that are still to come. We've got all sorts of kitchen stuff. We've got drawings that people watching have made and submitted, that I then put on some billboards over here. We've got storage of all sorts of items, including, I did some research online and I saw that some zoos actually feed cat food to their meerkats. So I thought it was a really fun Easter egg to put some cat food in here as well. That is what you can expect from future backstages in Keypark. Hopefully, if I can keep up that level of detail, I would be kind of amazed. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do it, but I will definitely try. So over here is another viewing point of the striped hyenas, and it's kind of this dry riverbed, and it looks so freaking cool. I'm super happy with this one, and I can't wait to actually finish it, because there's a couple more things to be done before it's completely finished. You can also see they've got like a little burrow in there. Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. I love this exhibit so much. Over here, I need to make a little change. I want to add a door over here so that keepers can actually get into this hut. The original idea was that they would be able to access it from the other side, but that didn't make a lot of sense, really. This is the edge of the zoo. Just put the door over here, and it's so much easier. Another cool thing over here is you can see one of the huts has been burnt down, And that is another bit of the education about national parks, which is kind of ending it on a low note in some way, because this is all about how sometimes African tribes are actually kind of driven out of national parks, even though they lived there for many generations. Suddenly their home is declared a national park, and they are not allowed to hunt in it anymore for their food. They're not allowed to live in it anymore. Some governments even set those villages on fire to try to evict those people. So some pretty awful things happening there, and I wanted to draw some attention to that because it's a pretty serious topic. And I think it's important that if you're doing conservation, you're doing it in a way that doesn't raise too many of these negative side effects, because it's just going to work counterintuitively, because people are going to protesting the work that you're doing, even though it's important. So yeah, I don't know, I thought it was an interesting issue to put some attention towards, and I think we're doing it in a pretty tasteful way. Not saying necessarily conservation is bad because of this, but hey, this is something that we should keep in mind when doing conservation work. So yeah, I don't know, I thought it was pretty nice. And then the last enclosure over here is the Kirk's Dik-Dik. And of course, Kirk's Dik-Dik are a bit of a shy animal. So I've kind of limited the viewing area down to these kind of broken down fences, making you really get a small peek into their enclosure, but nothing quite more. I'm still not quite sure if this enclosure would be sufficient to keep in Dik-Dik, or if it would be dangerous for them as well with these kind of walls. But yeah, I have seen zoos that have pretty low fencing for their Dik-Dik, so I think it should be fine. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to keep it this way and hope it's good. Yeah, over here we're back to that shortcut, back to the Europe area, but we're actually going to go into the next area over here as we get some minor peeks back into the meerkat enclosure through these holes in the walls. We also get a peek of their burrow over here, so both the porcupine and the meerkat can actually go inside of here, and you can see them kind of sleeping or whatever. There's going to be some billboards about meerkats and their burrows and systems and stuff. And over here is going to be, I think, a naked mole rat exhibit is what I had in mind over here. Originally I had the scorpions, like the desert scorpion, and the idea was going to be like, oh yeah, meerkat actually eats scorpion, let's put some scorpion here. But I found out that naked mole rats are actually African, and I didn't know that, whoops, until, yeah, I mean, I want to say recently, but it's been a while already at this point. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool fit to actually have the meerkat burrow and then have the naked mole rat burrow over here. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, that's kind of concluding the Africa area. We've already been staring at the next area for a little bit. This is Waters of the World. So we're actually underneath the start of the Africa area right now. I have built an aquarium kind of under part of the zoo. So we are underneath the banded mongoose enclosure and stuff like that. And this is where we have an aquarium. So it's called Waters of the World because we're going to be going around all sorts of parts of the world and seeing their waters. And we're starting off in Africa with the penguins, and we have some underwater viewing of the penguin over here, which I thought was a really cool way to kind of double up on this enclosure. Because technically this is actually the third viewing point of this enclosure that's giving you a completely different perspective of it, which I think is really, really awesome that we reuse that in such a degree. Over here you can also see backstage access to the red river hogs, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, this is going to be a whole backstage area for the aquarium. Not sure how much of it we're going to be able to build, especially with the ceiling kind of leaking from the waterfalls that we have around. But yeah, that's the backstage part. Over here is actually going to be where it continues, and we're going to go from saltwater Africa to freshwater Africa with all sorts of jungle stuff. I will admit that it's been a very long time since I wrote down all of these species of fish, and I have no idea why I picked any of them anymore. So I'll just trust old me that these are great picks, and they're really cool, and they should be in my aquarium for that reason. But yeah, over here is going to be a crocodile exhibit as well, African dwarf crocodile, nothing too big. Some more terrariums or aquariums for fish, frogs, whatever. There's so many options here. I got the water in already to make it all look cool. And then over here is going to be something for African cichlids. I want to make it a riparium to make it look all like lush and overgrown and awesome. I have a cool idea in mind. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to actually do it in the game, but we'll see about that. Then as we keep going, we go from Africa to kind of not really any particular part of the world. We are in the mangroves, which can be found in many parts of the world, including Africa, but also Asia, which is why this is kind of a mixed bag. We are going to have cow-nose ray in this tank over here. The idea is that we're going to have horseshoe crabs and fiddler crabs in this tank over here. Looks like the water has actually been removed from it. Whoops. And over here is going to be an enclosure for the Asian small-clawed otter, which actually also live in mangroves. So I thought it would be really cool to have a kind of mangrovey exhibit for them. This is not going to be the only space that they have, because it is a little bit on the small side. I don't want to be another artist, which is an Asian small-clawed otter habitat that I wasn't quite fond of due to its limited space. The idea is that there is going to be access for the otters to be able to get into the red panda enclosure, which would be on top over there. So don't worry, basically. Then yeah, some smaller tanks over here with more Asian fish, maybe, or mangrove fish, whatever we really feel like. And I've not even pointed out the awesome billboard work around here, by the way. All the way around is some painted murals of an actual mangrove screenshot that I took in Planet Zoo using some of Romano Population's mangrove trees that he put on the workshop, which are absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, really awesome room over here. And now we're going to take some Burger Zoo inspiration, and we're going to go down, down, down until we're underneath the water level. And then we're going to go into the deeper water. We're going to go into the oceans over here. So it's going to be a smaller tank over here with some underwater fish. And then over here, I intend to do some submarine theming. Still kind of figuring out how I want to actually approach that, how I want to accomplish to make it look like a submarine, because we don't really have that many pieces that fit for that, I think. But I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try my best to make it look nice. You can also see I'm experimenting with stuff like using the sunflowers as kelp. I wonder if the new corn pieces would be nice for that as well, actually. Yeah, that's another great addition for that, actually. That's going to be really cool. I might even be able to just use them like straight up. Yeah, that just looks like kelp as well. That's really cool. Oh, that's going to be awesome. Alright, so we know that we can do that. Gotta remember that. But then, from the kind of submarine thing, we're going to be heading into the reef area. And we are currently underwater. Look at that. So I don't have the mods installed right now, but I did actually have black-tip reef sharks swimming around in here. And that was all working perfectly fine. They were navigating their way around this little underwater part, which was absolutely awesome. And I can't wait to finish all of this stuff, because it's going to be super, super great. As we leave the kind of underwater bubble bit, there is some toilets, because it's been quite a walk so far, so people probably want to use the bathroom again at this point. Over here is going to be like a little marine research lab, similar to the one that they have at Blijdorp, where there's going to be a lot of smaller fish tanks, and some volunteers will be able to answer questions that you have about the fish. Don't worry, there is going to be a little elevator over here as well for people in a wheelchair, so they will also be able to get up there. I do try to take accessibility in mind over here in Keypark, even though there is a couple of areas where, especially that tunnel, the burrow in the Europe area, is a little bit small pathwise. There's probably going to be some congestion in there if it was a real zoo, but I'm running into some game limitations there as well with the pathing. But yeah, as we leave this part of the reef with the black-tip reef shark, as well as other fish, we're going to get into the actual coral reef exhibit. I built this a long time ago already, so there's way better pieces at this point. There's also the aquarium prop pack, which I am considering actually using for this. I'm not sure it's going to be necessary. I don't know. I'm doubting, because I am already really happy with how this looks, actually, even without using mods. So I might just keep it that way. Who knows? But yeah, we've got some cool designs as well, with the boat kind of sticking through over here. Yeah, all sorts of awesome stuff. And it doesn't end there, because over here we have a billboard which is kind of a projector. Like, the idea is that there is a projector. I need to make a projector actually and put it in there, and the idea is that that is projecting this image onto the ceiling, but also you can see some of the light kind of bleeding onto the rocks around it. Yeah, it's a really cool thing that we've got going here. Yeah, there's going to be even more exhibits over here as well. Over here you can also see this is going to be for the lionfish tank, was the idea of this one. And after that we get into the final area of waters of the world basically, and this is going to be the Amazon River. So it's going to be all sorts of fish tanks. Over here is a electric eel tank, which I've made my own custom electric eels for that, which I'm really happy with. There used to be gravel over here, but there was one update that everyone's gravel got deleted, so I still need to put that back in here. That kind of shows you how long I haven't worked on this area already. But yeah, even more fish tanks. Over here is a very large tank, which I want to put Eripaima in, but I'm not sure if it's actually still too small for that. I probably also need to make it a bit deeper for that as well. But I think I can have an Eripaima or two in here. I've seen Eripaima in smaller enclosures, so I'm probably just going to do it anyway. And then over here, we actually have, there is one. We've got the yellow anaconda with a nice custom enclosure. I initially made this using kind of the null exhibit mod, but even without the null exhibits mod, like the glass, you don't always notice it. If you got a nice angle, sometimes the glass kind of falls away. Maybe it depends on the lighting as well. But yeah, even more stuff over here is going to be a shortcut that doesn't go into the night house, because there is a night house over here. You can't see it yet because it's not finished. But yeah, maybe there's people that don't want to go into the night house, so they will be able to take a little shortcut over here and jump straight to the restaurant in the Australia area. But for the people who don't mind the night house, they are going to be going into here, and that's where we have the kiwi. So originally this night house was just a platypus enclosure, and that was that, and it was still part of Waters of the World. But when we got the Oceania pack, I really wanted to include the Keypark in the kiwi in Keypark Zoo. I thought it was a great fit for the zoo, and since we already had a night house over here, it only made sense to add the kiwi in here as well. So that's why I chose them. So yeah, this is going to be the kiwi enclosure, and then you get to the platypus enclosure, which was actually one of the first things we built on a live stream in Keypark. It was, I think, the second or the third stream already, which is crazy, and it still holds up really, really well. I'm still really happy with how it looks. I even changed it a lot since then. Like, I moved it around, I raised it, I lowered it, all sorts of things have happened to it. But yeah, no, it's still here and it's still looking pretty great. I'm still really happy with it, and they can still deep dive, which is amazing. No mods. They just do it. Oh, looks like that thing got moved at some point. Yeah, over here we do have a cool educational site, which I do actually need to change quite a bit, because I changed the sign style of the Australia area quite a bit recently, and I kind of want to make this thing in the same style, because this used to be, I used to have the idea that all of the signs in Keypark would have the same style, and this was going to be it. But I've since then changed it up that every area of the zoo is going to have its own style, and I think I will just add the kiwi and the platypus over here to the Australia style. I know the kiwi aren't from Australia, but I'm gonna do it anyway. But yeah, if you haven't noticed, this sign over here is the platypus song, Perry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb, but it's turned even more educational. So they're a semi-aquatic egg-laying mammal down under. So yeah, I removed all the secret agent stuff and replaced it with even more educational things about platypus. So they make burrows on the ground, they sweat milk, and everyone cheers when they hear them call, and then there's going to be a button, and that's what used to be that thing over there, because that actually makes a platypus sound when pressed. I added a custom sound into it of a platypus call, and that's that. So yeah, that's the platypus enclosure, and after that you're going to get into the Australia area proper. There is also a wheelchair ramp, of course, And yeah, the Australia area starts off with the indoor area of the koala. You could also go over here, by the way, and there's going to be a nice little restaurant with views of the Amazon tank over there, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, the Australia area starts with the indoor area of the koala over here. You can see one sitting around over there, as well as a quokka. They're also in there. And yeah, I thought this was a pretty nice room over here. It needs a little bit more detailing, especially on the wall over here with the educational signs. But yeah, over here you can see the style of sign that I want to give the entire Australia area. So I need to make some new signs for the platypus. Actually, I already have one for the platypus, but I need to make them for the platypus song as well as the kiwi. The Tasmanian devil I don't think has a sign yet. And I want to add tiger quoll, because there's recently been a tiger quoll mod release, and I thought it was a really cool species as well for Keypark. But yeah, over here we've got the outdoor area of the koala, and sadly they are sitting on the ground at the moment. They are actually able to climb into the trees, and they have been doing that a lot lately, so I was kind of hoping that they would be up there, because it would be really cool to show that. But yeah, doesn't look like they're in the mood for it at the moment. Oh, maybe? Are you gonna do it? Please? No, they're not, of course. Well, as we cross the street over here, we get to the wombat enclosure, and oh my god, it's actually outside. Usually it hangs around in its little burrow over there, but not today it seems. So yeah, it's not a huge enclosure, but from what I've seen, it's pretty, yeah, it's a pretty decent size for a wombat. It's comparable to other zoos that I've been to at least. And yeah, we've used the Australia kind of natural path to make a whole bunch of barriers, and that was an absolute pain, but it looks so good, way better than anything you could have done just using the pieces. So I'm really happy with how that turned out over here, and I'm guessing he's about to go into his burrow. No, he's actually gonna do something else. All right, awesome. Anywho, yeah, more viewing areas of the koala over here. You can get actually really close to them. My idea is that there will be a volunteer kind of walking around this area, also making sure that people don't do anything they're not supposed to over here, especially if the koalas or the quokka do get any close to the fence. But yeah, more of those educational signs. And then over here is going to be kind of a larger yard for the emu and the wallaby, as well as the Tasmanian devil over there in the back, which cannot get into this habitat thanks to that little wall over there. The emu and the wallaby probably could get into their habitat and out again, but that's completely fine. I've seen that at other zoos as well, so no problems there. Something I haven't actually pointed out yet that you can see really nicely from over here is that I'm also making some area around the zoo. The zoo is actually based on a real life location. It was near where I used to live in the city of Eindhoven. And I just chose a park, which is called the Levende Keypark, and that's why we named it Keypark Zoo. But yeah, I've kind of recreated the buildings that are around the actual location, like that big flat over there, and there's even more. This is a very tall building in Eindhoven. There's also another building that we can't see from up here. The Australia area does not really have a strong educational message at the moment. It's kind of just, look at the crazy biodiversity of Australia. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm a little inspired by the Zoo of Ouwehands, which recently opened a new koala exhibit, and the education focuses heavily on forest fires and the impact that those have. I thought that was really cool and might be a nice thing to do around here as well, but I'm not quite sure yet. So moving along, over here we're going to get into more temperate Australia with the Tasmanian devil, which will get a nice enclosure over here. And I was thinking we can make a tiger quoll enclosure over here. It's going to be netted over. This size should be good for them from what I've read from the husbandry manuals. Should be good for 2 tiger quolls, I think even. So yeah, that'll be awesome to add over here. We'll also add another kind of separation between Australia and South America, which is going to be back there. So yeah, I think that'll be fun. And over here, yeah, there's going to be a lot of ferns because we are in Australia, and those are those are a thing over there. And yeah, more of the Tasmanian devil habitat. And over here, this viewing point is actually going to be quite nice. As you can see, you're not going to be able to see that little fence separating the Tasmanian devil from the larger wallaby and emu yard. It's just going to look like one big Australian landscape, really. And you can even see the koalas in the back if you're lucky. So yeah, this is a really cool viewing point, yeah, I do believe. And yeah, as you're standing there, you're also right at the entrance of the South America area. I'm still not exactly sure what this area is going to be called. I was thinking Journey to the New World, but that doesn't have a Keypark pun in it. So Eben said I should call it Unlocking the New World, but I feel like that's a little too on the nose. We'll see. But for the South America area, the main focus education-wise, for starters, is going to be sailors, and how old sailors are one of the main reasons that the Galapagos giant tortoise is endangered nowadays, because sailors took them onto their boats because they were able to keep them alive very easily. They didn't need much water or food or anything, so you could have a turtle on your ship for a long period of time, which basically means you always had fresh meat available, which the sailors were a very big fan of. So a lot of islands were kind of raided empty of their turtles, so that these sailors had some fresh food, which of course is absolutely awful, but it's kind of interesting to see the history of that and how that affects the turtle population still today. As you can see, there's also going to be monkeys over here. We've got Monkey 2 backstage. They're going to be able to go onto these islands over here, which is also part of the capybara enclosure. So the idea over here is that we're going to have several islands for the monkeys, and the capybara will be able to swim between the islands and go on all of them, whereas the monkeys will have to stay on their own little islands. It's based on Zoo, which has a similar idea going on, and I thought it was really cool, and I wanted to build that. Another thing that I want to do over here, and I hope I'll be able to actually get it done without too many headaches, is something that they do at Blijdorp, which is where they have a tunnel from their backstage underneath the water onto the island. So there's going to be an unobstructed view over here, and you're kind of going to be left guessing where the monkeys actually, how the monkeys actually get to their island from the backstage, because it's going to be completely invisible. But yeah, over here we actually have a very special building. This is what I called Bootleg Madidi. This was the first building that we built for Keypark Zoo. The first live stream was working on this greenhouse over here, and it's actually not the same one anymore. It's already seen quite a few changes, especially when I was designing the Australia area, and the Oceania pack got announced. I really wanted to include some animals like the Tasmanian devil, so I decided to increase the size of the Australia area, and therefore the Bootleg Madidi greenhouse had to be moved. So therefore all of the pathing is broken right now, and the layout is also kind of a complete mix-up, because I've extended the greenhouse to make space for the Galapagos giant tortoise over here, to give them a little backstage in here. So yeah, the layout has been completely changed, and I need to redo all the pathing, but we'll get to that when we get to the South America area. The idea is there's going to be a backstage door over here, leading the staff into the backstage of the animals, like the spectacled caiman over here. There's also going to be a leafcutter ant exhibit. I really want to do something like what they have at the Zoo of Krefeld, which is basically a very small stream of water surrounding several small islands that the leafcutter ants can move in between, and inside one of the islands is their nest. There's actually, I don't know if Krefeld has a glass viewing area into the nest, but I do want to add something like that for sure. It's going to look really, really cool if I can actually do what I have in mind. We'll see if we can pull it off. But yeah, you go through the boats. Oh yeah, of course, there's going to be a lot of boat theming also over here, similar to what they have at Blijdorp. We already have one over here, basically going to just extend that into that tunnel as well. And that's going to contain all of the education about the sailors and how that affected the Galapagos tortoises. But yeah, over here, viewing point for the spectacled caiman that is completely broken, an iguana habitat, and there's going to be the indoor area of the capybara and the giant anteater over here. Then on this side is going to be a big aviary with the anteaters inside of the aviary, and you can either choose to go around the aviary or through it. I know that kind of the biggest oversight in the Africa area right now is that there is no way around the aviary, which can be kind of frustrating for people who are afraid of birds. So I made sure not to do it over here a second time. so at least one of the aviaries doesn't force you through. But yeah, also you do get more views of the kind of capybara habitat and the islands of the monkeys over there. But yeah, all of this stuff is super work in progress and still up to a lot of change potentially. Over here is going to be another backstage for the second monkey island, or I guess the first one. And then this is, I think, the most recent stream that we did was planning out the key area. Because Eben pointed out to me that Keypark did not have an area yet about the Florida Keys, and that was a huge oversight, and I definitely needed to fix that. And I completely agreed, so over here is going to be the Keys area. Over here I want to make a small aviary through which you can already see the rest of the Keys in the background. And over here you're going to enter some kind of building styled after the Keys. There's going to be some terrariums with all sorts of small reptiles that can be found around the Keys. Over here there's going to be windows into the aviary as well, so you can see the American flamingos. And then over here is going to be an American alligator habitat, as you can see. The cool thing about the alligator habitat is that it's going to look like the water of the alligator habitat, and the water over here that surrounds the raccoon habitat is going to look like it's one and the same, but of course in reality it isn't. And then over here we have the key deer, which is kind of the only species that is very much exclusive to the Keys. Therefore, I kind of needed to have them in here. They're also a nice small species, so they also fit Keypark really well. So I'm really happy to have them here. As you move on from the key area, you're going to get into the more generic North America area. So over here is going to be North American porcupine and North American beaver. Over here is going to be skunk, as well as the raccoons, which are part of both the key area as well as the generic North America area. And out here, there's going to be more stuff. I'm not quite sure yet what. Maybe Arctic fox. I want to do maybe sea otter. There's so many options over here. I really don't quite know yet. We'll see in the future. Then over here is going to be a terrace of the restaurant that we saw earlier. Outdoor terrace with views of the Monkey Islands. And then we already get to the last area of the zoo over here, which is going to be the Asia area. And the Asia area is all about human-animal interaction, and not just in the way of what threats are humans to animals, which is definitely a big part of it, for instance with the fishing cats, where human fishers are competing with the fishing cat for food, and that creates some human-wildlife conflict. There's also the palace cat, which experienced a lot of loss of habitat by farmers and is being predated by herding and feral dogs. Those are examples of animals getting in trouble. So yeah, the goal of this area is to really highlight all of those places where animals are interacting with humans in either positive or negative ways. Mostly negative, because there isn't a lot of positive things like that. And to really further drive that point home, over here is going to be a little village area. It's called Tala, which I think was Hindu for lock. It's going to be a little Indian themed village. And one of the coolest things about it is, if you remember the black and white ruffed lemur habitat, well, over here we've got their backstage. As you can see, they actually were inside of it for a moment. And the backstage of the black and white ruffed lemur is actually an exotic pet shop in the Indian village, and I thought it was a really fun idea over there. Lemurs generally aren't really being sold as pets outside of Madagascar. Like, they're not really being exported that much that I know of. So the message is not completely accurate, but I still thought it was a really cool idea over here, and I just wanted to do it. It was so much fun. It just worked out perfectly, basically. Over here we also have just a lot of themed buildings. There's going to be even more, of course. Some things are just blocked out right now. But the most interesting one over here is actually this garage, which is backstage access to the aquarium, believe it or not. So over here we've got the main backstage of the aquarium and the big shark aquarium over there. You can see the bubble that we were inside of earlier. So yeah, once again, this area is built completely on top of the aquarium. So underneath this Indian village is the Amazon area, which is just absolutely insane. Everything about this is crazy. The main reason I haven't worked on the aquarium in a long time is because I need to finish this India area first before I can actually work on the aquarium. Because once I build the aquarium and all the water is in there, I won't be able to make any changes to the terrain of this area because the water will lock it all in place. So I need to make sure I finish the India area, and then I'll be able to work on the aquarium and lock in all of the terrain with the water. It's not going to matter anymore. So the biggest attraction of the village over here is going to be the grey langur, which is pretty well known for living in villages. So over here is going to be their habitat, and it's going to basically be the public park of the village, completely taken over by these langurs. And you're going to be able to see some more buildings in the background. You're also going to be viewing them from the inside of a building. Over here I want to make actually a building that has some open windows that the langurs can get inside of, so you can see them ravaging around someone's home. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then over here, this was one of our most recent streams as well. This was the Yak Foundation. And the Yak Foundation is basically this zoo's charity organization who raise money for the animals in the wild. And as you go inside, you'll see that there is also a little classroom, which I haven't completely built yet. I don't have the chairs and stuff of the classroom, but there is a lot of kind of educational items around here: taxidermy, skulls, gemstones, which are made by Jurassic, which are absolutely beautiful, including this snake over here as well. That's also made by Jurassic. But yeah, there is some smaller terrariums and things inside of here. This one's meant to be for like stick insect or leaf insect. This one I need to change. It's meant to be for crocodile-tailed lizard, but I saw an exhibit for them the other day, and it needs way less land area. The land area is actually not necessary at all. The entire exhibit basically just needs to be water, and then just have some rocks and logs in there that they can perch on, and it'll be fine. And then this exhibit over here is supposed to be for vampire crabs, which is an animal that I own myself. I have 2 vampire crab terrariums on my desk actually, so I really wanted to include those in the zoo as well. Over here is going to be some type of snake, and other than that, yeah, there isn't much to see here quite yet, except for the fact that this is a billboard. Yeah, the walls of this place are actually billboards, and just like we had in the penguin backstage, all of those drawings on the wall, yeah, I want to do stuff like that over here as well. People already sent in a ton of drawings on Discord to use in this area. If you're watching right now and you think, oh, I want to make a shitty drawing of some animal that is part of Keypark, feel free to do so and send me the picture of the drawing, or just make it in MS Paint. Really, anything goes. The shittier the better, because it will look like a kid drew it. You can just DM those to me on Discord, or you can send them in the thread that is on my Discord server, which the link to that is also in the description. That's just your way to potentially become a part of this project. Speaking of being part of this project, over here we've got 2 checks of the Yak Foundation. These are actually real quote-unquote checks of some live streams that we did. We did some charity streams in the zoo, 2 to be exact. That's why we have 2 checks over here. One of them was last year for the International Red Panda Day 2023. We raised $184. So that's why I made this check. Over there you can see all of the different donors that donated that stream. And then over here, this was more recently, we did a stream on Earth Day 2024 to support the WWF UK on Earth Day. We raised £107. You can see the people responsible for that over there on the check as well. So yeah, really cool stuff. And that is pretty much the entire Yak Foundation. Oh, and we can see we have an educational talk going, and he's actually holding the leaf insect. That was really cool for 2 seconds. Over here is going to be a little office of the Yak Foundation, as well as a toilet, so people who are in the classroom following some kind of event will be able to go to the toilet there as well. So yeah, that is the Yak Foundation. Really cool little building over there. Over here we gonna have some education about the Hindu god Hanuman. I'm gonna have to do some research, maybe actually consult some of my Indian colleagues if they want to tell me something about Hanuman, and that will be fact-checked and worth showing here. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, the grey langur over here, also called the Hanuman langur, is actually the animal that this god also represents. So that's just a really cool thing to include here. For the rest of the village area, there is going to be a hotel over here with a reticulated python exhibit. The story behind that is going to be that in the Netherlands at some point a python was found inside someone's toilet in a hotel. Actually 2 floors below her, I'm pretty sure. There were some animal smugglers, and all of their animals escaped, and one of the pythons managed to crawl into the toilet and actually went up a floor or 2 and crawled out of the toilet there. So a person got the scare of their life when they suddenly found a snake inside of their toilet. Yeah, I thought it was a really fun story to kind of play into, and that's why we're going to have pythons over here in the hotel. Over here is going to be a store. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people know of the water monitor that was inside of the 7-Eleven somewhere in Southeast Asia. So that's what we're going to do over here. This is a water monitor enclosure, and it's going to be inside of a store. And over here, the water monitor will actually be able to walk around some of the store shelves and stuff. But also, if you leave the store through here, there is also a more naturalistic part to their enclosure as well. So they're not just inside of a store, which would be a little bit sad maybe. So yeah, that kind of concludes the village area of the Asia area. Right now we're going to get more into the Himalayas, which of course the main animal that we're going to focus on is the red panda, which is my personal favorite animal. So they definitely needed an enclosure in here. The idea of this enclosure is that when you're standing over here and looking out into the enclosure, we just left the civilization, right? So we're in this nice naturalistic environment. There's bamboo everywhere, there's trees, and we've got this beautiful naturalistic enclosure. All we can see is trees and bamboo and the beautiful red pandas. Also over here, by the way, I had some space, so I decided to throw in a little pheasant enclosure. The Lady Amherst pheasant, which is one of my favorite pheasants, actually does overlap range with the red panda, so it was actually quite fitting. So yeah, that's going to be over here. But yeah, over here is also going to be education about red panda conservation in the wild, so about reforestation efforts, about camera traps and how those help out monitor the species. But as you walk down the steps over here, sadly, you're going to get the realization that maybe the enclosure wasn't as naturalistic as it seemed, because over here is going to be a little house that you walk inside of, and when you're standing in the house, suddenly the enclosure is kind of part of this little village area, and you will see that these red pandas were actually being kept as pets. And on this couch over here you can see why that is not a good idea. Red pandas don't make good pets. They will tear up your furniture. They will shit on your couch. They are horrible pets. So there's going to be a lot of education about that. Why is a red panda bad pet? Why shouldn't you have a red panda as a pet? Because that is a very big reason as to why they are endangered. And every time I'm at a zoo, I always hear someone say, "Oh, I want one." And hopefully in this zoo people will say that, but then they'll read the sign and they'll be like, oh, that actually sounds horrible. I don't want one as a pet anymore. So yeah, that's the main idea of the red panda enclosure. And the rest of the Asia area over here is going to be including tufted deer, which are also kind of sharing range with the red pandas. And then we're going to get a little bit more creative with our species choices. I really want to have a civet in here. The Elston civet is a beautiful mold that someone made, so I definitely want to include that. It doesn't need to be a very big enclosure either. I had the idea of making education about roads and how roads endanger wildlife, but I'm not sure if we quite have the space to really complete my vision on that. Yeah, also, by the way, there is a shortcut over here into the Australia area, and we also have the koala backstage over here actually. That's something I almost forgot about. But yeah, the rest of the Asia area, a bit more random species thrown in. I kind of also still want to add the binturong back in here. I used to have it, but then I decided to make this for the red pandas instead, this overpass. But I think I might change that again to make it for the binturong after all. I think that would be quite cool. And then there's also the red-crowned crane over here, which is a really nice species to have over here. And yeah, more views of the red panda habitat from this side, but that wraps up the Asia area. And as we cross this little bridge with water that is kind of connecting the cranes with the moat of the red pandas, that also wraps up the zoo. So you've got some more views of the owls from this side, but yeah, we are back at the entrance, and that is the entirety of Keypark Zoo. So as you can see, still a lot to be done. Some areas are actually close to being finished, like the Europe area and the Africa area. So I do hope to be finishing those up sooner rather than later, so that when we can move on to the rest of the stuff. I really want to finish the Asia area as well, so that we can finally get to work on the waters of the world. But at the same time, I also really want to work on all of this stuff. You can definitely see that the more to the left you go, the less finished things get. But this zoo is really just me doing whatever I feel like at the moment. So I'm not going to force myself to finish any particular area anytime soon. If I feel like working on something, I'm going to work on it. And that's just kind of the way we've been doing things. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, thank you so much for 2,500 subscribers. If you want to see more of Keypark Zoo, you can always watch the streams. I know that streams are a bit of a time sink for some people, so I just want to let you all know that whenever I start a Keypark stream, the first thing I do is show the progress that I've made since the last stream. So if I have been building in between streams, the first thing I'll always do is show the progress. So if you're just interested in seeing how Keypark Zoo is progressing, you can always just watch the first like 10 minutes to half hour of the stream and you will get the highlights. So if that sounds interesting to you, maybe I'll see you in the next Keypark stream. And if not, that's also completely fine. Once the zoo is finished, I will be making more videos on it, so no worries. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Once again, I'm going to thank you for 2,500 subscribers one more time, and then we're going to end up the video over here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!